All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Founders Cut. I'm super excited today to have one of our portfolio companies, WeSparkle. I'm here with Michelle Tran Maryns, who is the founder and CEO. Uh, we've had the pleasure of knowing WeSparkle and Michelle for many years now. And when we had a chance to start a fund, they were one of the first companies that we actually invested in. So before we dive into what WeSparkle is, we'll love to just learn more about how you got to where you are today, being a founder of a tech company.
Yeah, so I have had a curvy journey, certainly to being a founder. I think that I grew up in a really small rural part of Kansas, and um, my mom was a small business owner back in Vietnam, where my parents are from. But when she immigrated to the U.S., there weren't a lot of resources for people like her, and so she didn't end up continuing her business. And I always wonder what she could have accomplished if she had. And so I've had it in the back of my head. I want to try starting a business myself someday and kind of follow in her footsteps. But, being refugees, I think they really wanted me to be on the straight and narrow. And so I got a really secure job working in government, worked in federal government, and then decided to work in the private sector for a little time. I started to help my brother with his startup and became interested in more of the private sector work, and then really felt called to work in nonprofit after that. So I've been in so many different sectors, and it was really when I was caregiving for my mother-in-law toward the end of her life. We were doing in-home hospice care, and we had some really great conversations. And she basically said, Michelle, I know that you have always thought about starting your own business, and you should just do it. You don't want to be at the end of your life and regret that you hadn't tried. So that's really what motivated me and kind of kicked me into gear into starting WeSparkle and making a go of it, founding my own social enterprise.
Yeah, I think you have a similar story to so many people that are from families that came over, decades ago now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where they struggled really, really hard to give you an opportunity to not have to, quote unquote, struggle. But sometimes you can't ignore the calling. Sometimes you can't ignore the DNA of entrepreneurship, whether it's a small business, venture-backed startup, or anything in between, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
super cool to hear a little bit more about how you got to where you are today. So, let's dive a little bit more into WeSparkle. I think one of the coolest things about WeSparkle is the fact that you were building AI before AI was, considered mainstream, right? And so, we'd love to learn more about the pain point you're solving and the solution that you're bringing to the forefront.
Yes, I think, AI's, at least the concept of AI has been around for a while, and people, um, in the past year or so have really started to know about it more than mainstream. But, it started in science fiction, actually, in books like The Wizard of Oz, where the Tin Man, could talk and move like a human, even though technically the Tin Man did not have a brain. And, it's really evolved from science fiction to science fact. And we were going through an AI winter for a while where there wasn't a lot of progress with AI, but I think in the past year or so we've seen a lot. But the problem that WeSparkle is solving is that women of color are the fastest growing segment of entrepreneurs, but their revenues are not on par with their peers, and that gap is widening. If we could close that gap, it would add 4 million new jobs and $981 billion to the US economy. And so that's what really excites me and motivates me. And that's the problem that I wanted to tackle. And the way that WeSparkle does it, you know, we really see AI as the future. When the internet first came about, businesses were thinking, oh, how does this apply to me? I have a brick or mortar store, I operate my business a certain way. But now, fast forward several years, pretty much every business has some sort of website or online presence. I think it's going to be the same case with AI. It's going to change a lot of the way that we do things and the way we do business and run our businesses. And so I want to make sure that underestimated entrepreneurs like women of color have access to those tools and are able to leverage them to increase their revenues, close that gap, and really be set up well for the future. So, The way we solve it is we provide AI-powered tools such as Sparkle Assistant. It's an AI assistant that text messages with the business's customers to do things like answer customer questions, schedule appointments, upsell the business's products and services, and encourage customer reviews. And since that was our first tool, we've since evolved to offer a whole suite of tools in our platform that business owners can use, but really trying to help them learn how to use these tools to grow their businesses and make sure that they're really easy to use, very accessible to anyone, even if, the business owner is not very tech savvy.
Yeah, so you're helping modernize traditionally more pen and paper types of operators. I think that's a great opportunity that you're chasing after. Obviously, we're super excited about your ability to use technology in a way where people can optimize their money, right? Because
Mhm.
alternatively, they'd probably be hiring somebody to take on some of these roles, right? So you're allowing the solopreneur or maybe even smaller teams to be more efficient until they actually need to maybe scale their teams, right? So
Mhm.
talk to me about a little bit about like what's the opportunity that people are missing out on by not using a service like yours? Like, let's say before they come into using your platform, what's the sales pitch that you're giving to that
Mhm.
founder, that small business owner?
So most of our users are appointment-based service businesses, such as consultants or coaches. Um, there aren't a lot of solutions for appointment-based service businesses. I think in retail, CPG, a lot of people are selling their products online, but when you offer a service, you are essentially charging for your time. So your time is really precious. And what we see is that the majority of business owners are wasting about 68% of their time just on repetitive administrative tasks. So things like going back and forth over email or over the phone to schedule an appointment or reschedule it, or answering the same questions over and over again from their customers. And so our tools, such as the AI assistant, can really answer those questions for you, 24/7 while you're sleeping. And be able to schedule those appointments so that you aren't having to go back and forth. So I think these tools can really help you save time, and they can also help you increase your revenue. So something that I noticed a lot with small business owners is they weren't doing those upsells, but you can actually increase your revenues, 7-10% just by doing an upsell. Because sometimes your customers who already love you, love your products or your services, they just don't know about the other things that you offer that are maybe complementary or of interest to them. And so offering that upsell or that cross sell at the right moment is really key. So our AI assistant can automate that upsell so it happens, during the booking process, for example. So if you are getting a haircut, it can ask, hey, would you like to, add a deep conditioning treatment, for $25 extra? If the person says yes, then, you got $25 extra from that customer. And then the assistant knows then to add 15 minutes to that
Mhm.
haircut appointment so that it accommodates that customer.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And obviously, I think is always one of those things where people don't want to feel like they're selling. So if they can
Mm-hmm.
have something automated do the selling for them, that upselling, it makes it a lot easier to make that ask. And you know, it's a very heated topic, but it feels very similar to at the kiosks now at the coffee shops or anywhere else you go. It asks you to tip, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the numbers on tipping are staggering, like pre kiosk where it just asks you automatically uh, versus now the numbers are just insane how much more tipping has been unlocked because of that automated ask. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it makes a lot of sense when you're not the one asking for it, but it's just part of the process of
Exactly.
onboarding. Um, do you have any good case studies about like an entrepreneur that um, you know utilized your services and they went from one level of success to growing to another factor higher? Like, would love to just kind of hear some use cases.
Yeah, yeah. So, on average, our customers report saving between 1 to 5 hours a week in time. And actually, even some of my family members have gotten involved, people who have been wanting to start businesses. So, my husband is a consultant, and for one of his projects, he was asked to do 30 different interviews. And normally when he's done this in the past, it's been lots and lots of
Yeah.
emails, phone calls, coordinating, because sometimes it's not even just with one person, but many different people. And so, um, you know, I was like, well, you should just use the scheduling part of our tool. And, it saved him probably 15 hours, he said, not having to coordinate all those 30 different meetings. Other people we have who have grown their business quite a bit. We have someone who is sort of like a health and wellness coach. And when we first met her, it was just an idea. And she was just getting started. And now she's using our tools to sell retreats, has been doing really well with those, and offering different coaching sessions. And so I think, using these tools has helped a lot of people either save time or increase their revenues, increase their sales. And I think getting those testimonials is really helpful too. One of our users is a co-parenting coach. And it's been great seeing those testimonials come in, because the work she does is so impactful for the co-parents who she works with, the families that she works with. And they've been giving her glowing testimonials. And every time they give a rating or a review to her company, her business, the user is able to pick a nonprofit to donate to. And all of them have picked her nonprofit. She has a hybrid organization where she has the business and the nonprofit. And so when they leave those ratings or reviews, donations are also being made to her nonprofit.
That's very cool. Sounds like it's a little bit of a Swiss Army knife. It serves a lot of purposes for a lot of different types of companies. Um, where do you see WeSparkle at its biggest and baddest in terms of success, right? You talked a little bit about opportunity size in the US, but are there aspirations to make this a global offering? Is it just focused on US based companies? I guess just in general, just trying to get an understanding of like how big of an opportunity do you see on the forefront?
I would love to see this global. My first job when I graduated from school was in the Foreign Service. So I have been fortunate to travel around the world and actually meet with business owners all over the world. And I think that we would love to evolve our AI assistant to be able to communicate in several languages. My parents are from Vietnam, for example. It's a very entrepreneurial country. If you have a business maybe operating tours in Vietnam, you have people in the US who maybe English is their primary
Yeah,
language, who want to book a tour. You could potentially use our tools to just do that through the AI assistant. You could be texting in English and say, I want to book a tour for this date, this time. And maybe the operator in Vietnam sees it in Vietnamese, but you're still able to make that
sure.
transaction happen.
Yeah.
So we definitely want to go global. There are entrepreneurs, many of them women and people of color all over the world, who could benefit from using these tools.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And we have so many good capabilities at our fingertips to make that kind of interconnectedness so much easier, right? Obviously, I don't want to downplay it and say it's easy, but it's in terms of like all the resources and abilities and capabilities of software and technology today. Yeah, you just need to have someone with a vision to make it happen that it's lacking. And I would say um, American companies do a lot of great things, but they're not good at thinking on a global scale, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think oftentimes it's always let's succeed in the U.S. and of course it's super hard, but it's always exciting when we have founders that are thinking from like not just here in North America, but there's huge opportunities on other continents too. So I love to hear that. Taking a step back to talk more about just the founder experience, because I think, well, part of this is to try to engage customers and investors and advisors to learn more about startups that are building, the next generation of technology companies. The other part of it is for, raising the hood and looking under the hood of what it means to be a founder. Talk about one of the things that you think has been the most surprising to you in terms of like challenges that you face as an early stage tech entrepreneur.
I think raising was one of the most challenging things that I've done as a founder. I come more from the product development world, so I can, build pretty much any website, app, digital product, CRM, LMS that you want. But I have never had to raise before, not in that sense. I did work
Sure.
in nonprofit and we did fundraising in the nonprofits where I worked, but raising from, angel investors, venture capital is a completely different experience that I've never had before. And so I did a lot of research, a lot of reading online, getting advice from other founders. And it was a process. I think a lot of founders joke about, oh, it's a full-time job, but it really is, and
Yeah.
you're
The
at the
joke is it's
same
not a
time.
joke,
Yeah,
right?
it's not a joke. It really is like a full-time job. And for me, I always had to keep in mind that, it's a numbers game. You may talk
Hmm.
to lots and lots of investors, hundreds even. I've heard some people have spoke with, and only a few say yes. But you only need a few to say yes. And
Right.
so not taking it personally when it doesn't work out, it's not a good fit. But really celebrating when you do find people who are a good fit to be investors in your company.
I think that's really, really important advice, especially now that I'm sitting on the other side of the table where I was the person getting the rejections very, very frequently. Arguably, that's why I'm in this position I'm in today, is because I didn't, successfully raise. I continued to bootstrap, but there are two types of founders, I think. I'm sure there's more, but like just for purposes of like tying the bow on this conversation, they're the ones that strengthen their abilities by stacking up the rejections, and then there are ones that let it become like this dark cloud that gets darker and darker, and they become jaded and harder to communicate with, right? And so one of the skills that I think you've always had is that positive outlook that's required to do what you're doing, which is, yeah, it's so hard to fundraise, right? It's not natural to have to try to win people over in that way. So yeah, I think that's great advice for founders, is just build that resiliency up, right?
Mhm.
It's such a hard place to be. If you could give yourself one piece of advice after what you've been through so far, and you could go back in time and tell younger you, what would you tell that early day zero founder?
That's a good one. Maybe I would have said start working with a therapist or a coach earlier. I didn't do that till the pandemic hit. And I am so, so grateful that I did. It helped me become a more resilient leader because I think earlier on, I was taking things personally and it was really hurtful. And I think working with a coach, working with a therapist helped me unpack a lot in my past that I hadn't really taken the time to reflect. I'm sort of a shark. I just keep moving, keep
Yeah,
moving. Um, but there are situations as a founder that you're going to encounter that may be triggering and difficult. And I think having a therapist or a coach or both, ideally, that you can reflect on these moments and unpack them a little bit and learn how to manage them going forward sets you up really well. I think it's
yeah.
helped me be a better leader and a better communicator with people.
I love that you described yourself as a shark. I'm gonna steal that. We can write it down that I'm gonna say that I'm looking for other sharks as founders, because I think that's the perfect way to put it, right? You have to continue to move. If you don't move, you die, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you want to be feared because you're disrupting, just like an apex predator is disrupting. Like I think it's a perfect way to describe it. Tell me some things that are on the horizon for you that make you excited.
So I'm really excited. We are currently updating our AI assistant. It's going to be even better. And we're rolling that out not just to the small business owners who we work with, but also the organizations who support small businesses. So we have different clients right now, economic development organizations, and tourism boards who use our AI assistant. So, for example, Meet Minneapolis uses it. They're the tourism board for Minneapolis. And so they have their AI assistant as a chat widget on their website. And it's answered hundreds of questions from visitors, everything from how do I get from the airport to downtown Minneapolis to what are the COVID protocols at the convention center, and been able to answer those questions. We are making it even better. Um, and we won't say yet, but we will be demoing that demo day at the end of this MSP Equity Accelerator. So we'll be able to demonstrate, to show the updates we've made to the AI assistant. Really excited to roll that out for the business owners and the organizations who support them.
Yeah, well, first of all, congratulations on the accelerator program. I know it's not an easy program to get into. No accelerator ever is. So kudos to you for to getting into that program. And yeah, that's super exciting. I would have never thought about the other side of kind of like the table of not just entrepreneurs, but also other organizations that have just a lot of navigating and question answering and like you said, that messy 60 to 80% of time being spent doing the unfun stuff just to get to the fun stuff, right? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think, if all else fails for listeners, WeSparkle is a tool to help you optimize your time, right? And we can all agree that time is our most valuable resource. And the more you can do to optimize how you use it in the work week, the better. Like, you talked about generating more revenue, but I think there's even something to be said about just generating more like free time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it maybe your revenue doesn't change, but maybe instead of putting in 65 hours a week, you get to just put in 40 hours a week.
Oh,
And
yes.
what is that 25 hours of time that you unlock because instead of at 4 p.m. you have to continue working to get ready for the next day. At 4 p.m. you can just close the laptop and go home, right? So, I think there's something to be said about that, and there's going to be a lot more research that I think comes out about work-life balance and work
Mm-hmm.
from home versus return to office and the amount of burnout that people are feeling today. So there's a huge, I think, narrative that's going to be as a wind behind you to push you forward. So as we get kind of closer to wrapping this up, do you have any advice for founders that might be thinking about starting a company or just, I guess, like good advice that you would want to give yourself? Obviously, we talked about fundraising and
Mm-hmm.
how challenging that was, but just in general, things like if a random founder came up to you and they said, "What should I know?" What would you say to them?
Well, a couple of things. I think along the lines of what you were talking about with burnout, is learning to manage your time using tools when you can, to make sure that you don't burn out, that you too take that time uh, to relax. There have been a lot of studies done that even doing simple things like a short meditation, or practicing gratitude, can really help increase your well-being and your resilience as a founder. So we actually have those tools embedded in our platform as well if you want to try those out. Um, and I would also say, I think that it's important to um, prepare yourself. Even if you've worked with founders, even if you've worked at startups, it's very different when you're doing it on your own. And as much as you can to prepare for that and make sure you have a supportive team around you, or even if it's not an actual team that you pay, but even just family and friends who support you and that you can go to when things are difficult, is really important. So there's some books too that I would recommend that are just like practical. I read things like The Art of the Start that I thought was really helpful as I was preparing to start a business. And then I think just don't be afraid to put yourself out there. I think when I first started, I was really shy and I didn't want to talk about my business or that I was starting a business. And because I wanted everything to be perfect, even with our MVP, I kept saying, oh no, we're not ready to release it. It needs to be perfect. And then we had it live and someone just found out about it and just bought it. And then we started using it and we're like, okay, I guess we're live. Like we hadn't made an announcement or anything, but that was actually, it was almost like ripping off a Band-Aid. We just needed
Mhm.
that to get going. And so don't be afraid to make sure everything is perfect before you launch. You learn as you go and you iterate as you go.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. And so for people that are out there listening, you know, one thing I'll add is maybe not even just friends and family, but just other people that are entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
The stronger your network is, the more resilient you'll be as well. think of it like a safety net, right? So
Mhm.
you want to have a lot of different people underneath you to catch you if you just need someone to complain to, bounce ideas off of, cry on their shoulder, celebrate
Yes.
wins, mourn losses, whatever you want to do. It's better to do it with other people because it's super super lonely.
Hmm.
It's such a cliche thing to say, but I can tell you firsthand, and I know you felt it the same way. Like there are days where you wake up and go, "Why am I doing this?" you know,
Hmm.
and,
Yep, definitely.
but the net result is you always get up and continue doing it because it's something that you're passionate about.
Hmm.
So I appreciate that feedback and advice to the founders. If people want to find you, obviously we can see the website behind you, but what other ways can people learn more about what you're doing? Is the website the best way to find out?
Yeah, the best way is to go to WeSparkle.co. In the footer at the bottom of the website, you can sign up for our email updates. And we often email about events we have coming up, chances for you to meet other founders through our community events. And then if you follow us on Facebook or Instagram at WeSparkle.co, you can also see a lot of our updates there.
One last question. Who are the types of people you want to connect with, whether it's customers, investors, advisors, whatever the case is, like who are the folks that you want to get connected with if they by chance stumble upon this episode or someone hears the episode and knows somebody that fits that description?
Yeah, so right now we're really focused on connecting with economic development organizations and tourism boards who support small businesses because we want to offer our AI assistant to them. I know that there are a lot of economic development agencies who have very thick books about how to start businesses in their state or county or city. Our AI assistant will be able to scan those and be able to answer questions from entrepreneurs. And so it's a great way to get information to them. So we'd love to talk with economic development organizations as well as anyone who might be interested in partnering with us. If you want to build a stronger and more inclusive economy by equipping underestimated entrepreneurs with the AI power tools they need, we'd love to talk with you, especially businesses that also support small business, such as banks that offer small business banking, insurance companies who offer small business insurance. We'd love to partner with you to support more small businesses.
I love it. I love it. Sounds like there's a lot of different people that could benefit from exploring whether or not this is a solution that they should plug into and help power their goals and their missions and their opportunities that they're trying to chase after. Um, Anybody you want to shout out or groups that you want to say thanks to?
I just want to say thank you to Tundra Ventures for being one of our investors for sure. Adam, you have been really helpful, and it's someone great to talk to because you also have that founder experience. And then also just my team. I have a wonderful team. They work really hard to serve our customers as best we can and to provide them with cutting edge tools. And so just really grateful to have them on the team and have this on them on this journey with me.
Well, thank you again so much, Michelle, for joining us. I have one last question, which is anyone you want to shout out or say thank you to, or groups that you want to shed light on.
Well, first of all, thank you to you and to Tundra Ventures for being one of WeSparkle's investors. We are so grateful to have all of your advice and support, especially as someone who has been a founder himself. And then also a shout out to my team. They are amazing. They work so hard to serve our customers and our community, and really excited about the updates that we're going to be releasing soon, and just really grateful for them as well.
Yeah, I'm excited to learn more about the capabilities of taking the information that a company has and then turning it into an automated assistant kind of a thing, or because I think even as a fund we could probably utilize that in a great way. So super super cool, and I think like if you are curious about it at all, you should reach out to their team and learn about it because you just never know what types of capabilities you're just not tapping into because you haven't explored the AI space more. So, you work with a company like WeSparkle because they care about the product, they care about the net results. So, you want to work with someone like that. So, Michelle, thank you again so much. Really appreciate you jumping on, and can't wait for everyone to hear more about what you're building.
Thank you. It was really great talking with you.
Cool.